screen sharing. Oh, there it is. There you go. Slight delay. All right. Yeah. Let's focus on the slide. Go. All right. So welcome to the November 2024 meetup for the Adelaide Microsoft IT Pro community. Sorry about the name. Yeah, thanks. I need to update the second slide. But I'm Andrew Young.
And I'm Adam Fowler.
Yeah. So there's my dates, LinkedIn, QR code, etc. A quick phone whip out. No.
Thing recorded, it's fine.
Yeah, there's people in the room who might want to instantly connect with us. Can't take that away from them. And then from States.
I think everyone reads the phone out now. No, they just. Right. Please connect with us, both of us. Yeah, love to hear from you. Just, on the socials.
Absolutely. And thank you to Microsoft for providing the venue and the equipment. Systematech for keeping the meetup subscription going. Dicker for some bag. And for myself, it's my blog logo, but yeah, some of the refreshments out there, that's for me.
They're provided.
Yeah. We try to switch it up every month. Okay. Quick note, I am doing Movember, that's why I look so shady.
Movember?
Yes, yeah. Movember, yes. Yeah, QR code to my page. Feel free to donate. What's the word? Mock, whatever. You can comment on it. But it is for a good cause, raising awareness and funds towards the research of prostate, testicular cancers, men's health, suicide prevention, and so on. So, yeah, if you haven't heard of it before, look up Movember. And yeah, it's a fairly, it's a good movement. I've been doing it for 13 years now, so that's good effort.
Or just seeing how 7 days looked.
No, not great. Even at 30 days, it's still not great. So it's the thought that counts. And also you can move kilometers, ran, walked, rode, swam, etc. Be creative. Anywho, less about that and more about what's coming. So Windows, in the Windows space, we've got the Windows Insider program has just hit 10 years. You may recognize Ninja Cat there in the middle. That was their mascot for a few years until it got kind of quieted down. They made it into an emoji for Windows 10. And in true fashion of the Windows Insider program, you get some wallpapers, light and dark mode. They did something similar for their 5-year anniversary. It's pretty cool. We got some old Windows 95 feels there in those windows. So yeah, check those out if you like. And also Windows Server 2025 is now generally available. Finally. But also do note that there may be a potential issue with one of the updates at the moment where it automatically upgrades a server to 2025 because it thinks it's a regular security update when in fact it's a feature update. So just be wary of that one and make sure none of those automatic updates happen where you suddenly no longer have a Windows 2019 or 22 and it's now 25.
Yeah, because it'll upgrade all the way from 2019. It's not just the last version.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a spicy one, that one.
Check the Windows update settings and read about that one.
Apparently it was safe in Azure because it managed to do the verification and it found it wasn't the right kind of what the hashing is. So it prevented that from breaking some servers. So that's in the Windows space. Try to keep it light this time because Shehan's got a fair amount of stuff to cover, I believe. So Microsoft Teams, there's now a new Teams chat and channel experience. Just when we thought people had enough fun trying to get their heads around chats versus Teams versus channels and shared channels and so on, we've now got a new format. I think there's a quick video I'll show you. No audio for some reason, but
you just did the audio.
Yeah, I couldn't get to begin with. But we're merging chats and teams and channels, so now you've got them all on the same pane, and you can filter by mentions, by unread, channels in particular. But the best part is, once it gets up to it, is that there's now a new create button, or what do you want to call it?
Section.
Yeah, you're creating sections with that button. New sections. So you can name these and then start dragging chats and channels into a new section. So just to
I actually like it.
I think it's practical.
I love it because I spend all the time in one and I forget to look at the other.
Exactly.
Putting them together.
And you find most companies either really go towards Teams or really go towards chat, and it's just
Just to put them all together.
because
you
you'll find
get the other ones there.
Yeah, because you'll find people will create group chats for the hell of it, and then suddenly all this sprawl of information. So
So
being able
do
to group that
It's
is
still like the single view. Well, I think I will like it.
yeah. So it's rolling out soon. I did see it in the Microsoft tenants with my guest account. So soon is the idea there. Plenty of documentation around it. It'll be in the show notes afterwards. Just things around adoption, how it
It's
all
in
works.
public preview in mid-November.
Okay,
That's the good now.
you should be up here.
And then GA in January, mid-January to February.
Okay.
Yeah, at least it didn't wait to ignite. I'm sure there'll be other things they'll break during ignite. So look forward to that. End of support for dates for some things. So we've heard Windows 10, sadly.
Of 1 year's time, just to call it out. Not right now.
Just under
One more year.
just under 1 year.
Yeah.
T minus. Yeah. So those major products there, and servers, the equipment servers as well, they're all going end of mainstream support. So Microsoft won't release any new updates or feature updates to those. There may be some limited security updates to them, but past next October, you're probably going to want to be moving to at least 22, 25 versions if those exist. Generally Office 365 and 365 to cover some of those bases there. And just so that you got support from Microsoft and everything's receiving security updates and so on. Reach out to your providers, disties, whoever manages your stuff, and provide you any advice around these items, preferably soon.
Yeah.
And straight into security, I've just got the ninja training. So every Defender product has one of these tech community blog posts set up. So there are learning paths across all of the different modules that relate to those Defender products or Sentinel or so on. So if you do go through all that, it's a free assessment. It's using Microsoft Forms. It's a quiz. You're going to get 70-80% and send it through and say, I've done this, and you get a badge of completion. So you become a ninja in X product. And also there's a cloud native app protection policies ebook. If you've already consumed all of that content and you're just really hungry for more, yeah, check that one out. I don't think I have the direct link for that, but it's,
You should have like a prize for the first person that shows evidence they've got that.
I think getting all of those and then showing that they've read the entire book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never have to give away the prize. So
Yeah.
That's
Something about no work and all, no play and all work, right? A Microsoft Tech Community blog / forum page has had an upgrade. Check it out. It's still in read-only mode, but it looks a bit nicer. It doesn't do it justice, but the formatting is a bit more in line with the rest of their websites. So check it out. And once it does come out of read-only, feel free to post things and interact with people. That's what
loads
it's
of
all there
content
for.
for. Yeah. Most things get posted these days.
A lot of like the technical blogs as well across the different products are there's some of the blog portion of that. Hey, more on the learning side of things. So there's a new data engineer associate with Fabric certification, DP 700, is in beta right now. There is a code to get 80% off if you want to do that. Pricing for exams did go down for us in Australia from the first. So I think they're slightly cheaper, 15 US, so it's not too bad.
No, sorry, there was a new person elected, and that's just wiped out all of that stuff.
Right, it's gone the other direction.
The security, US dollar has gone up so much that that's just completely wiped out.
Give it a couple of weeks. A couple of weeks.
The MB280, that was the Dynamics 365 Customer Experience Associate exam. That's now going to be available. Beta results are out. Okay. And that's replacing 3 Dynamics exams. The DP 600, so that's the other Fabric exam. That's currently in a there's a up to 1,000 or 5,000, but there's 3 exams for this one coming out. If you're a member of the Fabric community, there'll be links to that in the notes afterwards. But join the community, consume all the learning content, and they'll select people and give them a free exam to take. If Fabric and data science and all that is in your remit, you can try. new applied skills, there is finally a Copilot related applied skills, except it's around readiness. So it's not really around Copilot, it's more around security and compliance. So all the Defender products, Purview products, getting all that in line before using Copilot, because protecting your data before allowing AI to touch it is paramount. And then for the other side of learning, there's expert zone. For partners, there's level up CSP and so on. So AI Tour, it's coming back again to Sydney on the
11th of December.
December, yes. And they're also doing like a bit of a write-up as it visits some of the select cities around the world. So I believe that's post right now. I think it was Mexico or somewhere around there. Don't quote me. They were saying that online meetup that already happened. I don't know why I left that there, but that's the Microsoft Student Accelerator Program. But before I talk about that, there's the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassadors Program. So this is a part of this MVP community that Microsoft has. So if you are a student in TAFE, uni, whatever's in between, you may be eligible. So you can sign up, create a profile, join a Discord server, and if you go through and do some events or run some labs and so on, you may be elected as a beta student ambassador. You will receive a swag kit, all sorts of good things that MVPs don't get anymore. And then if you do even more, you get the gold label, and then you actually get a foot in the door to potentially become MVP, but you will be given access to MVPs for mentorship and other cool things. And then the accelerator, so a lady called Michelle Sanford runs these around ANZ. It's been a while since it's been to Adelaide. I have been trying to get something to happen here. If anybody wants to help out or get some students along to a thing, please let me know. I have been introduced to a few people around, like unis and all that. So hopefully get something sorted for this one. I don't know if it's be this calendar year, maybe next. See how that goes. And just the other, do you need to take a photo?
We need to go back to our original slides,
With
the ones of you and me.
the QR codes.
We'll bring it back at the end. Come back next time. It'll be online. Just the other user groups and communities in Adelaide. So we've got us and Start Dev, then there's Copilot, M365, Azure, .NET, Data Analytics, Power BI, Fabric, and maybe a security. See how that goes. But there's plenty going around in Adelaide every month. So whatever floats your boat in that list there. And we're not the only tech community here in Adelaide. There are other we call them brands, vendors, other clouds out there. So always keep an eye out. And what's coming? We've got the Australian Cyber Network Roadshow hitting Adelaide on the 19th. Yeah, I was sent a link that the other day, so it'd be good to go along and connect with some of the professionals in that space. Looking at the security people in the room. Microsoft Ignite is happening in a couple of weeks' time, so register for that and you can get access to the online, on-demand content. Be sure to maybe have a look, but otherwise you'll see the announcements the day after or during the day. And we've got a cheeky plug here. So Data is doing their Microsoft Partners End of Year Networking event. And then after that, we've got developers in Adelaide on the 23rd. That's developer community coming together, and there's a fair amount of good content coming for that. As mentioned before, AI Tour in Sydney, and then a quick pre-look into Digital Workplace Conference in New Zealand early next year. Right, and for us, we are looking to do a joint user group thing for December. So likely the first week of December, likely the Tuesday, I want to say at this stage. And we'll probably cover some of the major things coming out of the Ignite conference and anything else, and just close out the end of the year, maybe a bit of a longer session. We may have some prizes, giveaways, and other things. So be sure to come along. And yeah, if you want to suggest any topics, or if you want to actually present at one of these things, fill out that form, found that QR code, or just hit us up and let us know you're interested, and we'll take it from there. So without further ado, we'll move on to our topic for today. A quick intro. We've got Shehan Perera in the room. Oh, good. You need USB-C or?
Yes.
Oh, this is charge. This will charge. I charge them as well. Don't think so. Need the clickers?
Yeah.
It's a surface. Give USB.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, get out of your way.
So have you got the charger for me? Well, got a charger here. This new business, right? But that would not. Got a USB-C. Got a USB-C connector, and this would do. You need, because you've only got one USB-C port. You need both power and output to
We use
play,
which is also USB-C. Outbreaking where you change this. This is where you slice it.
oh, my child is yeah,
You're in front of that.
yeah, it's still on the
Okay. Okay, we just shifted the pane at the start to midway, so just bear with us.
easy. Where's the clicker?
I don't know. What did you do with it? Were you still sharing the screen, people? Will be not. Share desktop.
No, it's not being shared. Now it's
Sharing the wrong desktop. You have sound or anything on that?
now it's up.
Yeah, we do. I'm gonna move that away. Yeah. Oh. Good.
Right. So, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks, Adam and Drew, for this opportunity. Talk about conditional access policies we all know and love. So, this is me, Shehan Perera. I'm Shehan, and I'm a Microsoft MVP in security, specialized in Microsoft Intune, identity platform, Enter ID, different XDR. I'm an architect working at Bastion Technology Services in Microsoft Unified Endpoint and Identity. It's a long one. I always do mistakes when reading my title. I'm one of the official contributors at the Modern Endpoint Management LinkedIn group. We got like 40K users at the moment from around the world. So I pretty much share my blogs in this group as much as I can. So where to find me? So emsroute.com is my website, basically my blog. I write a lot there, and basically I post pretty much every blog post in LinkedIn. I recently opened up a YouTube channel with some videos in it. I want to expand my YouTube as well, and also of course next. So if you scan my QR code, you can find me from there. And this is something that I came up with some time ago, which got a lot of traction in the community, called intunemaps.com. So it's pretty much collating a lot of Intune related stuff into a web page, and give some information around. For an example, if you want to find about how to plan, how to do some planning on Intune, rather than just going to the learn pages, you can directly go here, and that will forward you to the learn pages, because learn pages have got lots of good information, but the chances of getting lost is is very high. So from here, of course, you can go to the relevant page and you can navigate from there. So this is the version 2 of that. So I'm almost due for the version 3 with the new Intune updates coming into the scene. So yeah, hopefully you update that soon. So that's intunemaps.com. So coming back to today's session, conditional access policies. We all know conditional access policies. Pretty much we have the conditional access policies in some way in organizations. So the goal of today's session is basically to tell more about these CA policies. It's not really only for MFA, what other things that you can do, and what sort of controls that you can put to achieve those stuff. I'll be discussing about basics on very quickly run through dissecting the conditional access policy to understand what's in it in a policy engine. Conditional access policy states in an organization. This is something I came up with the experience that I have and has been working along with lots of organizations. Some CA controls, they can be your own use case to implement another conditional access policy as well. To be proactive with CA policies and the controls around it. Some impact analysis with what if tool, if you know that's inside the infra portal. What's report only mode, what you can do with the report only mode. The CA policy documenter, it's a community tool, so I'll be discussing on that one as well. And this is signing logs analysis, some best practices and closing Q&A. So let's dissect the conditional access policy. Before we go there, this is something that really the new that you can see in the conditional access policy page right now, a coverage page that has got lots of information about your applications and what's covered and what's not with the CA policies, and monitoring page, monitoring tab, which has got the access denied, controls applied, what are the main applied policies and total number of sign-ins and everything. So like a bird's eye view of your conditional access policy in your organization. All right, so coming back to the whole dissecting thing, this is what's happening inside a conditional access policy. Signals, you got signals from everything, your users, your identities, your devices, compliance related, and your network. And it can be your data, your stuff that's managed by purview, for example. And you got your decisions as well. What are the decisions, like block access straight away, or allow access, or like remediate risk, or something like that? If the user risk is high, get the user to release the password immediately, things like that. And what's the enforcement? So the enforcement happens after that. So it says, yes, you have the grant access, but you need to do this in order to get it. So MFA would be one of the things. So that's what's happening inside the policy engine. So in other words, they are just very sophisticated and intelligent if-then statements that's running in Endpoint. So let's look at some common signals. So these are your common signals that's actually coming into the conditional access policy to be able to give that decision and the enforcement. So you can get parts of endpoint manager on Intune. The compliance can be one signal. Your user identities can be one signal, for example, and also your data, your purview information, the risk, the insider risk stuff can be a signal. The global secure access can be another signal as well. So they're all coming into the conditional access policy, and these are some common signals that you can use in your conditional access policies. So with this, the decision comes in. So you got the grant access or block access. So very straight block access means they can't access the resource. So if you go with the grant access, then you can do the enforcements. So these are some common enforcements, like require multi-factor authentication. We know, everyone knows that. Requires authentication strength. It's not just the authenticator giving the number matching, but you can do something more. I'll be discussing on that one. And the device should be marked as compliant in order to access the resources that you want them to access, like UIOD scenarios and things like that. Require the device needs to be hybrid joint device in a hybrid environment. Require protection policies, require terms of use, legal, if users accessing a critical application, they need to accept that. So I'll go through those stuff as well. Require password change depending on the risk that you define on that policy. So before we go any further, the least privilege access RBAC is important because we are talking about zero trust every day. So conditional access policy administrator would be the least privilege access that you can give. So the administrator can only access that part of the entirety. So CA policy states in an organization. As I said, this is something I came up with. So I noticed there are like 3 stages. So we'll discuss on that, and I would like to give some tips on that one as well for every stage. So there can be a scenario where you don't have any conditional access policies, or you're coming from a different cloud, Google Workspace, for example. So you're not using the intra identities or the security around intra, or maybe you're just starting out with your conditional access policies. The number two would be joining the journey. You've got some policies running around. So you got fairly good coverage of the resources, and you know what's going on with the conditional access policies. And the third one is basically you have a mature CA policy practice. So that means that comes with good documentation. Maybe you got SMEs for identity that does the conditional access policies and things around identity in a good way, and a good policy coverage as well. So let's talk about those three stages. So if you go to the very first one, more CA policy practice, or you are new to the conditional access policies, these are some tips that I can give, so that can be helpful in your journey. So it's always good to start with basics. Defining a baseline would be very important, and also right off the bat, you can just log the legacy on and things like that. So they are recommended. There are always templates that you can use, where I'll be showing in a bit. So you can start with the template, apply it in the read-only mode, and then go from there, understand the impact of those policies, and then expand into the on stage, like the turn on the conditional access policies. Prioritize key applications. Maybe you don't have applications going via Entra ID today, so register those applications in Entra ID and get prioritize them. What's the criticality of those applications, and then run with conditional access policies. There are policies for admin privileges. So there are two ways that you can do. If you have team groups, you can add the team groups into the conditional access policies in the groups section. Or if you use the any administrator would need to use conditional access policies, which is more recommended, I would say. Then you can start enabling the MFA as soon as possible for the administrators. So that's one of the things we'll start with as well. So maybe today you are running the per user based MFA or security defaults. If you're not using the conditional access policy based MFA, per user is no longer recommended from Microsoft. Everything needs to run via conditional access policies. Security defaults is basically for tenants that doesn't have a premium subscription. So CA policies would be the best way to go, and you can do a lot of things when you get them into the conditional access policies around the MFA. And also, if you have MDM, have an MDM or Intune for that matter, you can look at compliance-based policies. So I'll go through the compliance-based policies in a second. Monitor the access review. So in that way, you can understand the policy coverage, and then you can add more or adjust the policies accordingly. And also building a roadmap is important as well, because you can't implement all the policies, all the required policies overnight. So you need to understand what will be immediate in the next 3 months, 6 months, and so on. So these are some tips for the starting out with conditional access policies. So if you're in the journey, that's really good. Congratulations. So that means you have pretty much completed that stage. So you can always evaluate your policy coverage. It doesn't have to be every week, maybe once a month or something like that. So audit and adjust MFA usage. So there's a workbook that you can use. So I'll show that inside as well. MFA gap analyzer. So it will say what users who are not protected with MFA when you connect that workbook into your intra environment. So you can set up adjust the usage of MFA usage. So if you are in P2 today, Premium P2 or Entra ID, plan for risk-based policies as well. So that has got a like a defender for identity integration. So depending on the user's risk or sign-in risk, you can define your policies what to do, like block or reset the password and so on. So authentication contexts are very interesting, and you can connect different intra components with conditional access policies, and you can attach your applications into conditional access policies as well in different stages if you're using authentication contexts. Gap analysis would be another workbook that you can use. So in that way, it will say, all right, so these are the recommended policies for conditional access policies. These are the ones that you are covered today. So you can always run those workbooks to understand that gap and work accordingly. Also start using the what-if tool for policy analysis. The impact analysis, and then you can understand if you implement this policy, what will be the way and what will be the impact for the users. And also, in a situation where you are collaborating with external users, you can start looking at the external, getting them into the conditional access policies as well for different things, for accepting the terms of use before accessing a resource from your tenant, something like that. So external users is always available in the conditional access policies, so you can start using that. And also architecture patterns, or like if you want to adhere to something like a template in your organization, what you can do is, I can give you just one example. Depending on the application type, you can implement a pattern. That means, let's say if that's a critical application, always go through strong authentication. So every time when a new application comes into the organization, you don't need to think, what should I implement? So you have that categorization, and accordingly, you can implement that conditional access policy. So if you are in a mature policy practice right now, as I mentioned, with documentation, SMEs doing the identity work, for example, and you got a good coverage, it's always best to review and adjust the risk-based policies to understand what the users that are not covered with these policies. Chances are you may have a lot of users as well. So always good to check on that. So evaluate the authentication context again. So I'll come to that bit. So expand token protection. This is something still in preview. But you can look into that one as well, at least to play around with that control in the conditional access policy. So integrate compliance-based policies as well. So mature policy practice means most probably you have a MDM, Intune, or third-party MDM provider. So you can connect the compliance-based policies when accessing the resources from different types of devices. Again, it's a what-if tool. Terms of use is important. If you want to get the BYOD, you can use the terms of use or coming from the external tenants. You can use the terms of use or accessing critical application. Terms of use is very important. And also gap analysis and fine tuning. So it's a journey. It doesn't mean that you have done everything and you are in a good state. Yes, you may be in a good state, but it's always fine tuning and understanding what's not available and trying to get that in. So if I put everything together, so this is something that very much explains everything that I just mentioned. Getting started, what you need to do, the high level stuff, define a baseline, build a CA policy practice at the roadmap. And then you can say you are in the journey, and then pretty much fine tuning the policies, uplifting that CA policy posture. And then you can say you got a good policy practice running as well. So, as I mentioned, so evaluating the current policy coverage, gap analysis is important because the new capabilities are coming in to the policies, conditional access features very frequently, and the requirements changes as well. New applications comes in, new requirements comes in the organization, and also emerging threats as well. For example, this token protection feature was not available 3 months ago. Now it's there. So adapting accordingly would be the best way to go. So in a way, it's just a continuous security posture updating, and that this helps greatly for your zero trust practice as well. Any questions up to this point? Anyone who's online? Good. So we move on. So as I mentioned, so this is the policy templates that you can use today. There are a lot of policies, that standard policies that you can use straight away. So I selected the block legacy authentication. So ideally, you can adopt the template, start with report only mode, and then change the settings accordingly. So this is what you can see when you click on that policy. So there are, it's tri-state on off or report only. So you can start from there. Change the users if you want to, non-set to all users, which is not recommended way. So you can start with the pilot batch, or you can start with the report only for all users. Doesn't matter as long as it's not affecting everyone at the same time. So this is this some CA policy controls, as I mentioned earlier. It's not just for MFA, but for many things that you can do around conditional access policies. So these can be your use cases as well to implement another policy in your organization. So let's look at those. So compliance-based policies, as I mentioned. So as you can see, the line. Oh, this one. That's one. So as you can see, the grant section of the conditional access policy, when you select grant, you have the option of require the device to be marked as compliant. So for that, the entry ID should get that signal from somewhere. So if you have Intune, it's very easy because you can set up your compliance policies accordingly. And there you go. Thank you.
Button there.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, this works as well. Yeah.
Mine worked too. Oh, now you've got two.
Oh, yeah, it's working. Thank you very much. Yeah, so marked as, I pressed the wrong one earlier. Required to be marked as compliant. So before that, you need to have Tune, for example, or you can hook up another MDM. So there are some supported MDMs at the moment. So for example, if you go with Xnode MDM, so that compliance signal can come to entry ID, and then from there, so as you can see, that information will be used in the conditional access policy when doing the decision or the enforcement. So this is what you get if someone is failing with the compliance requirement. So they can log in, they can use the username and the password, the MFA would pop up, challenge would go in, but they would get this message saying can't get to the resource that they are planning for. So that's one scenario. So moving to the second one now. If you have any questions on those controls, please do let me know. The terms of use, you can easily use this to give some rigor around your application accessing, or like someone comes from an external party. So critical app scenarios, BYOD, yes, BYOD is available, but the user needs to accept the terms of use. So there's a terms of use area where you can set up your terms of use. So it can be a fair user policy or a like a legal statement or something like that. So when you have that, you can enforce to prompt the terms of use every time the user logging in of what's the frequency, and whether the user needs to expand the whole thing before they press accept. It's not just end user license agreement B2 next and accept. We just correlates with their carrier as well. So it's important them to read and understand what's going on. before they actually press accept. So when you have that up and running, you can use the enforcement, the same which I used here, access to corporate data. So that's the one that I'm using, and you can match it up with the different enforcement as well if you want to. And then when the user trying to access, they would get this page. So this is the PDF file, and if they basically decline, they would not get access to the resources. So this is keep a good way to keep things safe in a way if you want to expand your access to other parties. So we come to the strong authentication. This was been implemented like not long ago. So we all know MFA, how MFA is working. We can use authenticator, FIDO2 keys available, Hello for Business available. But the strong authentication is something that we can create with available options at the moment. So you can create your own combination depending on the resource that you want to access. So here, of course, I have created a strength called new strength. And I'm using Windows Hello for Business and FIDO2 pass keys for this one. So provided I have set up the FIDO2 keys, accepted the keys inside Enter-ID. So that's the groundwork that I need to do to use that technology. Or for example, server-based authentication. And once it's created, I can do a drop down on the multi-factor authentication and select that new strength. So that will be the one which is prompting when this policy is in use. So it's a very good way to push more rigor around your application accessing or whatever the things that you need to be able to provide via conditional access policies. So authentication context, which I mentioned a couple of times. So there are authentication contexts like a label that you can create within Enter-ID. So the classic example would be if you want to do a privilege identity management enablement for a set of users, or let's say for a group, then in the settings of that team enablement, it says you can use the MFA, or you can use the standard MFA, or you can use an authentication context. This was in preview for some time, but now it's in general availability. So provided you have a label created under authentication context, then you can use that context in there. So that will be the middleman, which is basically working with the conditional access policy and the PIM enablement. So if you have seen this earlier, let's say if you're elevating your access to a global administrator or any other role, you would get another MFA prompt. So that means the standard MFAs. But if you have the PIM if you have the authentication context, and the policy says whenever they are elevating to a global administrator, it's not MFA, it should be a strong authentication. So it can be not simple as accepting doing the number matching. It should be something more than that. So you can match it up with that scenario can go on with a authentication context. And also the developers can use authentication context in the application development. So that means there can be a situation where to access a different tab or different module in the application, it has to go through another MFA challenge. So if the developer who's developing that application use that authentication context, that can be used in the conditional access policy as well. So that's another bonus. And also, when you have authentication context, the target resource, as you can see, it's the authentication context. So when you select that, any like previous created contexts will show up here, and then you can connect. So I created that for the for the grant, and you can match anything else as well when you have this in place. So resilience defaults in a standard Entra ID authentication or re-authentication, the policies will be evaluated whenever there's a token expiration or something like that. And the security controls will be resatisfied accordingly. But what will happen in an Entra outage? So I think Entra, when it's on I think it went on outage for like 2 times, if I can remember right, in the past couple of years. So what happens with this resilience default setting is for this, if that's enabled for that policy that you want to give access to an application or something like that, in an Entra outage, the backup authentication will kick in. That means the primary authentication is not working anymore. So the backup authentication will not take any new requests. So it's only working on reissuing the tokens for the existing sessions. And according to Microsoft, 90% of the authentications are re-authentications. So in that way, so this will not accept any new authentications coming in because the backup authentication already got the previously satisfied user information. So it will work on that. And this is enabled by default. So if you enable it, if you keep in the enable mode, the policies will be re-evaluated even though the primary authentication is not working at that time or it is down at that time. And the conditions will apply. So that's a very good option, I would say, if you have critical applications that needs to run regardless. So that's a good setting to keep enabled. Or you can block during an outage if you're not sure about what would be the way to go. Maybe you are just giving an application to an external party. So if you can't keep a track of it, it's best to keep it disabled. So during an outage, the application can't be accessed. So that's resilience defaults, which are coming under the sessions, the session section of the conditional access policies. So token protection, as I mentioned earlier, so this is still in preview. I'll touch base on that one very quickly. So very briefly, if someone hacks into your computer or whatever and gets compromises and gets the token, they can replay the token. So that means MFA information are there, username, password, all the information are there. So they can just easily jump into the system that they want to. But with the token, if the token protection is enabled for that policy, the token will be device bound. So even if they steal the token, they can't replay because that token has got information about the device. So this is something new, but I don't know why it's coming right now. This should have been there for forever, I would say. But if it's enabled, so that will work for that policy. Again, it's a session policy as well. So this is pretty much uplifting that CA posture, as I mentioned. So those are the things that you can do to uplift your current posture. So zero trust network access, I believe you got something to talk on that one.
Kind of, yeah. So I covered Entra Suite webinar today.
Oh, yeah. All right, so not going to much of the detail because it's a different topic on its own. Zero Trust Network Access, or GSA, is a product, Global Secure Access. So it's pretty much enabling secure access, identity-based access to different traffics, 365 traffic, internet traffic, and private traffic. So when you enable those, if you have the traffic profiles created in your Entra, and you can enable that in your conditional access policy. So that means to enable internet traffic from that device, users needs to go through that process of MFA or accepting something. So you can mix and match with this control along with the enforcements that you have. And also, let's say to access the 365 traffic, the device needs to be compliant, something like that, or the IP network, the OS level needs to be in this level or something like that, or the risk can be connected as well. So risk-based CA policies. So this is basically the identity protection that comes under the Entry V2. And also, if you have different of identity, the on-prem signals, the hybrid signals would come into the NFID as well, and that you can use that to understand the user's risk or the signing risk. And let's say, depending on the risk level, then you can, you can say require password change. So the user can change the password for signing in because NFID has got this signal saying, maybe impossible travel or failed signing, frequent signings or something like that. Or you can say if the risk is high, just block. So they have to call the problem to the help desk to get that should solve it. So at least then, it's the IT would know that there's a problem with user account and can do the necessary things. Another session control. So continuous access evaluation, this has been there for ages, but this is something that we need to do more right now. So back then, usually how the token works, any token would valid for 1 hour, and it will get refreshed, and it will be a great opportunity to reevaluate the policies for that under that user. But that can be a problem because let's say if you disable the user, that can take some time to evaluate the token and to disable the entry access and the resource access. But now it just this is stuff near real time. So the user state changes usually take 15 minutes near real time, and if the user changes the location, it's just instant. So geo blocking and things like that will work perfectly if you give this enabled for the policies that you want to apply for these controls. Fully supported conditional access policies. So mainly for insider risk that comes under compliance E5 or Microsoft 365 E5. So Signal is the risk level here. So in the Purview portal, you can create your risk levels. So that's pretty much a Purview, sort of a Purview insider risk task. And accordingly, depending on the risk level, and if you go to the conditional access policies, if you configure this to yes, what do you want to do with the risk level? If it is minor, you want to ignore, or if it is moderate, you want to grant with terms of use, or if it's elevated, you want to block access. So things like that can be connected to conditional access policies as well. So as I mentioned, this is the data part of the signals that are coming into conditional access. Device filters, another good one to use. If you have your users, your applications, device filters will come in as another condition. So what it does, maybe you may have a requirement not to prompt MFA for a set of devices. It can be a kiosk device or something like that. So I have used the extension attribute 1 here. So if it says IT laptop, so that means you can exclude or include those devices in your conditional access policy. So I have this put here entry join, that means they are trusted devices. So do you need to do another MFA, or do you need to exclude if the user is coming from a trusted IP location, things like that. So I have done 10 already. So this is the 11th one, the bonus. Again, it's something new that came up recently, authentication flows built in preview. So this has got 2 options, a device code flow or an authentication transfer. You may have seen this if you tried to log into Azure CLI, or maybe, an application like an Android-based device that can't do the authentication. So this is where you jump into a different computer and then like the code signing. So with this feature on, then you can say, because this is a very high risk phishing attacks can happen. In order to complete the code, the device that you are using needs to be a compliant device or needs to go through another MFA prompt, something like that. So that can be matched in your conditional access policies. I personally haven't tested this one, but usually the authentication transfer, the documentation says Exchange Online on desktop, for an example, the authentication state can be transferred to a Exchange Online on mobile. So if you have the QR code, you can scan. So to do that, again, that needs to go through that process of compliance and enforcing those stuff in the policy. Yeah. So they are the conditional access controls. So some mentions any Microsoft app that you can set the required approved client app. So Outlook can't, the emails can't be opened in a different third-party app. Let's say particular Android device and stuff like that. You can match it up with the protection policy, and it comes with Microsoft Intune, and you can say in order to use this application, there should be a policy up and running in Microsoft Intune. At enforced restrictions, there are some restrictions that you can't provide in conditional access policies. So because the application would have that control already. For an example, the access controls in SharePoint Online. So you can transfer that control from the conditional access policy to the specific application. There are limited number of applications available at the moment for those. And also conditional access control. So third-party applications like Box or Dropbox, you can manage downloads. You can block downloads like data exfiltrations can be stopped, and you can use authentication context around those apps as well. So this comes with a bit of a configuration in the cloud apps or the CASB defender, and then you can enable that one as well. So I talked about like a blueprint that you can maintain. So if you go to ASD, Australian Signals Directorate Secure Cloud Blueprints, there's a section for conditional access policies. These are some policies that pretty much government agencies would need to adhere to. But if you are looking for like an Australian standard, this is a good way to start as well. So it says device-based, yes, user policies, use policies. So you can look into this one as well. So being proactive with conditional access policies, some controls that you can use. I'll go through this one as well very quickly. So conditional access workbooks. So log analytics workspaces can be used if you have like an Azure subscription. Then you can create a workspace, and you can start streaming the logs on Entra ID. And you can, there are pre-created workbooks in Entra. I can show that a bit. So these are the stuff that you already got in Entra. If you go to the diagnostic or health and diagnostic tab. Perfection. So this is how I created monitoring and health. So provided that you have your log analytics workspace already, so you can. This is the workspace. So if I go to diagnostic settings and I can switch on everything, all the tables, and I select my workbook. And then when I open the workbook, so it just takes some time to stream the data, and I can save it in my tenant as well in my Entra tenants. So this is the gap analyzer workbook that I mentioned earlier. But I have done the same thing twice. Yeah, so you can get stuff like this, some information which is graphically good, I would say, rather than just going through the logs one by one. So this is the conditional access insight and reporting workbook. So they are ready for you and created with KQL. But if you want to do more of your own sort of workbooks, you can do that one as well and connect it to the Entra ID. So this is the gap analyzer, as I mentioned. So you can see the legacy authentication. It says no applications allowing legacy authentication. So that's a good indication. So you know you don't have gaps in the basic authentication being enabled. And these are the stuff that they are looking at in this workbook. And also, if you if you're interested in running KQL and stuff like that, you can get the log analytics and you can run your own commands as well. This is not conditional access related, but you can get more information on user stuff, user details. Can be more creative as well. So this is the MFA gap analyzer workbook. I'll see if I can do that. Yeah, so that's listed under the learn documents anyway. So this goes to the Meetup where you can get the gap analyzer JSON file. So provided you have the log analytics workspace up and running, so you just copy the code, create your own workbook. And just apply, and that's it. So provided you got data streamed already, so you can get good information about what's happening in your tenants, what's your signs and MFA access and whatnot. And you can do some filtrations as well, like trusted locations. You can go by the app to understand what sort of applications that are not protected via MFA at the moment. What are the sign-ins not protected by MFA? And what you can go with the users as well. So impact analysis. This is the what if tool. So again, we have seen this one earlier, probably in the conditional access policies area. So there's a new method right now, which is working with the graph that's connected to all the other services like inside Avis as well. But I personally prefer the old method because you can do like a wildcard for the users. But here, of course, you need to select your user. That's mandatory. So when you select your user and when you select your application, application would be the new, which is the mandatory right now. So I selected Microsoft Intune as an application. So it says what are the policies that are in place if a user is trying to access this application. So that's a good way to troubleshoot as well as to understand the impact of the policies as well. Old method would give you straight away just the username. You don't need to select apps, or if you want to, you can do that one as well. And it says for this user, what are the policies that have been applied straight away, and then you can go from there with the impact analysis. Report only mode. We all have seen when creating a conditional access policy, report only mode. So report only mode basically, it runs from the background for every policy that you're applying for that user. In the evaluation mode, but not in the enforcement mode. So the information that's collecting in the report only mode, you can run in a workbook as well to get to know more. Or if you go to the signing information and if you go to the report only tab, as we have set up very recently, you can see whether the policy has been applied or not. So I got two policies which are not applied. Ground control is blown in that policy. So ID Power App, I think we all know Mary Fernando from Microsoft, Entra ID Guru, one of the Entra ID Gurus, I would say. So he has came up with a community tool called the CA Policy Documenter some time ago. So it's basically when you run that in your environment, it will give you a bird's eye view of all the policies and spit out a PowerPoint presentation with all the policies. So if I go through this very quickly, I have a block legacy authentication is the topic name. It's what and you can see what's been applied here, and for the users and for cloud apps, what's the control and policies enabled. So this policy is disabled. It's in terms of use tested. All the conditions are disabled. I got 365 like SharePoint Online enabled, and I have the grant control with the access to corporate data terms of use being applied to all users. So it's like a very good way to document your policy set as well if you use that. Signing up analysis, I think this is last slides. So I think everyone has gone to signing events to understand, signing behavior, to understand why it got failed. So I got a failure from my subteams for this user. But if I go to the conditional access section, so I can see what the policy that got applied in the first place. So that's good. But if you go here, you can get the policy that got matched with the conditional access policy. It has matched 3 criteria, and you got the access control as well. So I know why I got the team's failure. And we can work accordingly to make sure that it's not blocked. Adjust your policy accordingly. So yeah, that's like some best practices. Always follow the zero trust model. Whatever you do in security. So as in breach, always verify and least create access. Block all legacy authentication sign-ins from the get-go. You can start doing it. CA-based MFA is a must, I would say. Phishing-resistant MFA, CA policies when possible. Windows Seller for Business, biometrics, your FIDO2 keys. Those are the phishing-resistant CA MFAs you can use. Apply at least, for every application, try to apply the access policies as much as you can. So they are, they're just covered under the whole, always verify zero trust. Block high sign-ins, so you can work accordingly with the users to understand why it's happening like that. To understand whether the accounts have been compromised or not. Untrusted locations, block. If you can block signing from untrusted locations, that's great. Always start the policy with the pilot user group if you want to check the behavior at the same time or in the report only mode and expand accordingly. Also, clear documentation is important. So that will help to understand if something goes wrong with the policies, what was the change and what has happened, and more importantly, who has done the change as well. So key takeaway, if I want to leave you with this one slide, would be this one. So the 3 stages of the CA policies, getting started in that journey. So it's pretty much in the journey at all times when you start that. And also the journey would be continuous security for shoplifting. Open for Q&A, and thank you.
Like a bit about gaps. What's the Microsoft definition of gaps?
The gap analysis.
Yeah.
So they got a couple of policies that's enabled at the moment. So the workbook would give you the policy that needs to be there, like the legacy authentication and can't remember the stuff, the locations and things like that. So if you adhere to those stuff, that means you have pretty much done the baseline. So have come up with the baseline and completed that. And also, according to Microsoft, they say these are the current gaps that you need to complete from the get-go. And also, when you start working with the conditional access policies, you might see, that analysis is important to understand any applications that are not covered. So that can be a gap. And also MFA, there can be new users who are coming in, maybe they are not in the MFA, or maybe you had just excluded some users, so you forgot to put that in for some reason. So those are gaps. So that needs to be evaluated frequently. Close.
So no questions. We can wrap up.
Yeah. Right, thank you all. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Shehan. I'm good to last slide. So thanks again, Shehan, for presenting. And again, next month we will look at doing the first week, hopefully Tuesdays, and it will be the joint session. So with the guys from the Azure user group, Copilot / M365 user group, and we'll see if we can rope in the other user groups at all. Maybe some of the other MVPs in Adelaide, and try and get some form of Christmas / end of year event happening here. But generally, we'll be covering the Ignite announcements. But yeah, hopefully we'll have a good turnout for that. Sure.
Should have said that like half ago. That's all right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's me. You got anything?
No, looking forward to next month. Please turn up. Be a good one. Should be lots of
Yeah,
people.
don't let those people that put your details in and don't come up.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
All right, I'll stop the recording.
Please. Perfect. Thanks, Betty.